Hi, my name is Jacob Aringo, and I am the STEAM teacher at Herbert Hoover Middle School. So what is STEAM? STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Math. STEAM is an interdisciplinary and project-based learning course. The purpose of STEAM is to apply what you've learned by solving a real-world problem. To give you context of this instructional design, this is my first year in teaching a coding class. I went through a variety of tools so that students understand programming language structures. After a couple months of delving into code.org and alice.org, which are two drag-and-drop programming engines, my students started to lose interest. So I came up with an idea. Based upon a series of observations made in my class, my students love to sneak out their phones and play games. So why not teach them how to make games as a way of learning how to computer program? What do my students need to learn game design and coding? A pre-game survey was filled out using my Moodle site, and the results came back so that I know what students currently know, and based upon the project's terminal objectives, I can design instructions to fill the current learning gap. The desired results of this project is that all students are able to apply the game design and development process to their own game, and demonstrate how programming is integrated with the game design and development process. Based on what students already know, all students have played a digital or non-digital game. 35% of my students have previously designed games by way of GameStar Mechanics, which is an online game engine. 75% of my students recognize that programming is a primary part of the game development process. Within the 75%, they didn't state that there are other aspects that are related to game development. All students have used code.org and Alice 3 to learn programming. This poses a learning gap because 75% of the students said that programming is a primary part of the game development process. Students in coding class have a limited view of the game design process, and students in the coding class have a limited view of how programming is integrated into the game design process. If I created instructions in which students experience the game design process and practice creating games by way of programming, we would bridge the learning gap. To design and develop this instructional design, I used a process called the STEAM Machine. The STEAM Machine outlines a series of research-based processes in which students discover and explore concepts, use what they learn to design a solution, share what they learn to an audience, and reflect on the process of learning by recognizing the strengths and needed improvements. There are 3 stages to this instructional design. The first stage is that they have to learn how to program using the game engine GameMaker, which is an event-based drag-and-drop game engine. The second stage is they have to redesign an existing game by changing the game's dramatic and formal elements. Once the skills in the previous stages have been practiced and mastered, they will be able to develop their own game. In the first stage, students will be guided through building 4 games: Evil Clutches, Galactic Mail, Lazarus, and Rainbow Reef. Each of these games have specific skills that students need to learn to design and build their own game. Once they are comfortable building these games, certain instructional scaffolds such as the GameMaker Apprentice book and the tutorials that I gave them will be taken away, and the students will have to build a game given the game resources such as the sounds and sprites, and a video of how the game is played. In the second stage, students will need to learn how games are designed by knowing the formal and dramatic elements of a game using Tracy Fullerton's game design workshop structure. Students will learn the elements by creating a concept map of a game design terminology and identify those concepts in a game that I give them randomly through a game design analysis presentation such as this. Using what they've learned, they will redesign one of the games they have made in stage 1 by changing 2 or more of its formal or dramatic elements. In this last stage, students will start designing and building their own game. Students will need to plan their game using a game design document, which is the same outline as the formal and dramatic element structure. Students will need to pitch it to their teacher and build it. After a number of iterations and weeks, students will test their game and have other students test their game for feedback and eventually showcase their game in our upcoming It's Game Time Expo. After my students, a learning specialist, and a subject matter expert evaluated the design, I've gained a lot of insight about how to improve the instructional design of this unit. From the student's point of view, students love to design games and they value being on the computer. But students didn't enjoy the reflection and metacognitive aspects of the project where they had to build a portfolio and do a daily learning log. In terms of what students learn from the game engine, there was growth in how students learn the game engine. Students are now proficient on how to use a game maker engine after the instructional design. But as for having a holistic view on what entails game development, students didn't elaborate on the other aspects of game development like art and music and planning. Majority of the students still stated programming as a primary aspect of game development. I've also received feedback from Kim Camposano, who is a San Francisco Unified School District STEAM Learning Specialist. We went through a protocol called the Tuning Protocol, and I got a lot of feedback from that protocol. She stated that the Moodle website can be improved by making sure that the steps of the STEAM machine are explicitly placed on each module so students know where they are at. The essential questions, how are games designed, is not rooted in coding. Rather, it is rooted in how games are designed, and she valued that coding is a tool to express yourself through game development. And she valued that there is a choice in how students learn how to practice game development. You can either watch a screencast video, or you can read the ebook Game Maker Apprentice. The next person I asked for feedback is Gabor Zauer, who is the subject matter expert in this design. He is a game engineer at Warner Brothers Gaming Studio in San Francisco. We used the same protocol, the tuning protocol, and I received a lot of feedback from that. He stated that before students redesign the game, students should also play the same game before building it so they get a feel for it. The structure of the class is similar to that of a game design college, such as Full Sail, which he has attended. And he valued the use of a game design document so that all stakeholders on the game development team have the same vision of how the game should look like. In conclusion, this instructional design process has been very informative. It's allowed me to look at its strengths and needed improvements so that next year my coding class is scaled and focused on learning computer programming by developing games. Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation.